Buckle up, let's lock in. Got some scary stories to share with you. The first story for the night is called Fort Huachuca Part 1, which we left off on last time. There were 2 times I saw a UFO, once during the day and 2 times at night. If anyone has been to Fort Huachuca, they all know the long PT road that takes them to the airport gate and then the mountain base. This road is pretty long and many battalions do their fair share of running, rucking, and PT tests. One morning, we had been doing a buddy run and we were running down the road towards the airport. My team leader and I usually had a similar pace, so we would always run together. We had seen this black disc come down from the clouds way over the far mountain range towards Tucson. This thing had to be making time because of how quickly it got from one side of the range to the other in a matter of seconds. As soon as it had started moving over the mountains, we heard the F-22 start up and begin to take off. It was pretty good coincidence that these guys were taking off as this thing was moving away. I think they were chasing / maybe responding to it. This other range is about 90 to 120 miles away from where we are in Sierra Vista. Anyways, by the time these pilots had responded to it, it was already moving back into the atmosphere. It had all happened within 2 to 3 minutes. The second time was when we were in a closeout formation, waiting for our command sergeant major to start talking. I'd been looking up, just mesmerized by the clouds as any board specialist would do, and to notice a silver disc that was moving in weird angles to match the outline of the clouds. I had pointed it out to another guy next to me, and we both watched it until the other clouds had moved in below it, blocking our view, never being seen again. I don't know, did you guys ever had any UFO experiences? I haven't personally, but I've heard a lot of stories. All right, Fort Huachuca Part 2. The first time we had seen the lights at night was when we would sit in the back of my truck drinking and talking while watching lightning storms over Tucson in the distance. The stars were bright, but we had been out there almost every night to the point we knew if something was different. This night we were talking as usual, not drinking. We had seen these green and orange flashing lights moving fast before the coming to a stop. So we looked up what airplane lights look like on their wings, and it wasn't matching up to anything. These lights would hover in an area outside of the storm for another 15 minutes before shooting up and out of sight within the blink of an eye. All we saw was the stream of light that something makes when it moves stupid fast really quick. We all agreed that it was really weird and continued with our conversation. Imagine you're watching what you think is or perceive to be a spaceship with your buddy, and it moves off, and then you both look at each other like, yeah, we're just gonna disregard that ever happened, and then you just keep talking. Fort Huachuca Part 3. The last experience that I had with the lights would be when I was out in the field shooting comms. We ran 24/7 comm switching parameters with NetOps to make sure that everything was fully functional. We'd seen another light this time come down in a circular motion from over the border over US airspace. It wasn't too far away from us, but we were watching it with big eyes. It was just hovering near the blimp for a few minutes. It wasn't flashing colors like the last one we saw. This time it was just a blue light, but brighter than anything I'd ever seen. At the same time it had come down, we had lost radio and signal communications, so we couldn't even call it into the other team who had been closer to it on the other side of the valley. This time, instead of beaming back up into the sky, it just disappeared in the blink of an eye. Once it vanished, the signal came back. We had received a call from the officer on duty at the time, but we didn't know if we had a believable story, so we blamed it on a power issue. 4 of us saw it and tried to get video proof, but nothing could be made out except the audio. We all just passed it off as another weird thing about Arizona without ever speaking of it again. The Air Force has done a lot of exciting stuff out there, but do you know about the one airline that only goes to Area 51? We had this thing land there one time at our tiny runway. We had never had anything more significant than A-10s land there before, so when I saw the commercial flight, it was bizarre. Anyway, we're gonna move on to some overseas stories. The next story is called Guantanamo Bay. All right, I was mobilized there in September of 2020. I walked into one of the detention facilities that may or may not have been empty. My buddies who entered always got a bad vibe from that place. I was in there by myself. I was looking for a machine that was on our books when I heard footsteps above me. Like I knew I was in there alone, so I got spooked. Then I heard voices and a door slam shut. The crazy part, in the location it came from, all the doors were still open. It got frigid, like unnaturally cold for anywhere on the island. I, quote, noped the F out. My buddy had the same experience with the voices. She was in there with one of our NCOs and heard voices behind her. Confused, she looked behind her and saw nothing. She asked him if he had said something, and he was like, no. What could it have been? A poltergeist? The next story is called Echoes of the Korean War. It was 2018 in South Korea at the Twin Bridges training site. There are old Korean war trenches everywhere. We were out running missions, and that night at our patrol base, we set out anti-intrusion systems. It was late at night, and the guys on watch started to notice the anti-intrusion systems going off and could hear what sounded like a platoon-sized element marching through the woods towards our position. They woke everyone up in preparation for a fight. We sent a call back to the TOC giving a report, and they responded that no other elements were in the area, either friendly or OP4. At this time, the sound got louder and louder as the platoon-sized element marching through the woods was approaching. Through the MVGs, multiple guys could see what looked like figures approximately 25 meters from the fighting positions and appear to march by and continue. No one slept that night, and we were spooked the entire time we were out there training. No doubt these woods are haunted by the men who fought and died in the Korean War, on both sides. Yeah, I don't blame them for noping out either. If something weird like that happens, I'm out. Peace. Deuces. Yeah, sounds like the ghosts of Gettysburg, which I've heard of people taking pictures of certain areas out in Gettysburg and like getting poltergeists in their film and stuff like that, which would be super creepy. The next story is called Wheeler Army Field, which I think Wheeler, if I'm not mistaken, is in Hawaii. It's like right across from Schofield Army Barracks on the west central side of Oahu. My unit was based out of Hangar 4 at this time. As the night shift NCOIC for my section, there were numerous times, even during the summer, I would be out on the ramp and hit an area where the temperatures would feel like it dropped about 20 degrees, or working on a bird in the hangar and feel something brushing against you. I was always weirded out if I had to pass by Hangar 3 or go to the ramp area in the back of it. The wildest experience was when I was doing some office work for the CAP unit. I was the only person in the building, and the entry was via a cipher lock. Cipher lock is like buttons, so you have to like know what the code is to get through that door. He said, I heard the door open and I called out that I was in an office. The only light on was the entryway and where I was. I heard footsteps moving in an adjacent hallway, and I investigated who it was. I called out, but got no answer. So I figured it was someone messing with me. I grabbed a flashlight to shine down the hall and saw nothing but heard the footsteps still. And it sounded like they went into a closed office, yet the door neither opened nor closed. The footsteps came back out into the hall and went toward the front of the building where the entrance was. As I looked at the door, I heard it open and then shut. Yet there was no physical movement of the door. I wrapped up what I was doing and left the building. I told someone about the encounter, and they had a similar experience. Looking up the history of the building, it was hit by a bomb during the attack that damaged the front of the building. I was skeptical about the paranormal until that night, which made me a believer. One of those buildings probably got hit during the attack on Pearl Harbor because there were bombs dropped all over the island, like Marine Corps Base Hawaii up in the north, which used to be a naval air station. It wasn't a Marine Corps base at the time, it was just a naval air station. They got attacked and a bunch of their hangars got hit, and then obviously Pearl Harbor got hit. There's probably some hauntings going around down Oahu somewhere. Guarantee that. Kind of like Cherry Point. Spooky buildings that you have to inspect when you're on duty late at night, and part of your tour is ensuring that certain buildings are secure and stuff. The next story is called Cambry Fritsch Kasern, U.S. Army vet. Just after the war in Iraq started in 2002, I ran a dining facility in Cambry Fritsch Kasern in Darmstadt, Germany. When the ground war started, the MPs would call me every night saying my building was unsecure. After about a week of this, I was tired of it, but nothing I did would stop it. One night when I was clearing the building with the MPs, the radio in the building was on, and they told me that they had already cleared that building and there was no radio on. In fact, it was a strange night for them. While in the building, which sat on a hill, a dense fog rolled in, and they could see World War II Nazis marching in the fog. They could hear them marching all around the building, but when they came out of the building, there was nothing in the fog. I could tell they were at their wits' end and were totally freaked out. As soon as they announced the ground war ended, so did the open DFAC doors and marching German soldiers. Yeah, that's definitely strange. Mr. Trench says, I was driving my 18-wheeler out west in Wyoming past midnight when something in the atmosphere lit up the night sky. It was moving at a speed that I can only describe as Mach Jesus. I saw it for only about 2 seconds before it vanished over the horizon. An asteroid would have broken up and a rocket even hypersonic too slow. When you're up late in those 18-wheelers and you're by yourself, that's probably the time that they would like want to pop out, right? You know, when nobody else is there to see it, but it's just you. That's what I feel like, because then they're like, yeah, nobody will believe his story anyway. Have you heard the story about the outpost on a hill in Afghanistan where the Marines were picking up like 80s Soviet radio conversations on comms and seeing guys in NVGs that weren't there? Apparently the previous rotation of Marines found old Soviet bones while digging a trench. Yeah, I have heard of that because there was a lot of Soviet soldiers that died in Afghanistan during the Afghanistan campaign when the Soviet army was in Afghanistan. If I ever die, I don't think I'd want to come back as a ghost, but who knows? Maybe it would be fun. I'd be the ghost staff sergeant. Spook the duties while they're doing their tours. The spookiest thing I've ever experienced was night land nav in Quantico. I was doing night land nav 2 when I was at the basic school up there, which is like one of the courses, the basic officer course. All the officers in the Marine Corps have to go through this course up there. You do technically 3 different iterations of night land nav. The third one and the final night land nav is basically night land nav 2. I was up near the FBI Academy. Like I'd walked all the way up there from the training area and I knew a box was off the road in the tree line on the right-hand side of this road that runs right by the FBI Academy. And I walked into the woods down this hill. I was basically just kind of doing dead reckoning because it was dark. And so I was just, you know, like, okay, just head in this general direction for a little while and you'll probably see something. And when I entered the woods, I could hear like the breeze, I could hear wind blowing, I could hear like creeks, you know, rustling, like the water rustling around. And then eventually I got to a point where I was so deep in, probably about 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in. And then all of a sudden there was no noise. It was just completely silent. And that was real spooky. I don't remember what time it was. It might've been like 7, 8 o'clock at night, maybe 9. I don't remember exactly, but I was all by myself in the tree line and I was like, yeah, I think I'm lost. And so I basically like shot an azimuth to head back towards the road and I just like sprinted back to the road to hit the road again. And then I like hang railed the road up until I got to another like easily identifiable terrain feature and entered the tree line that way. But it was kind of creepy. Next story is called Huh, That's Weird. Very interesting name for a story. All right, so this one is at Hoenfell training area in Germany, 2018. We air assaulted into the DZ at 0300 in the morning. About 3 hours later, just before twilight, I'm pulling security and 2 of the OCs come walking towards me. One in front and one about 5 meters behind him. I couldn't tell who it was, just the outline of 2 guys walking toward me. I didn't have my MVGs on for crossover, so it was essentially just bodies walking at me until one of them identified himself. When the first one got up to me, I asked him how they were doing and realized the other hadn't shown up. So I asked him if he had another guy with him, and he said no. I got the chills immediately and told him another dude is walking behind him, to which he replied, huh, that's weird. That was his response. Okay, the next one is called Intruders in the Akio. I had what I can only describe as some paranormal experience out at DTA in Alaska. While out at a squad live fire, we were sleeping in the Akios, which is a 10-man Arctic tent, and I awake to the strangest feeling of someone pushing and attempting to hold me down. When I look up, there's some grayish black shadowy figure who was kneeling beside me and looking down at me. When I realized what was happening, I had to fight to sit myself up, and as I look over, I see 2 more of those figures above 2 of the other guys in the tent. After I made what I assume is eye contact with them, they disappeared. I didn't see them any of the other days, but that overall experience weirded me out. I wish I had more to say about it. It wasn't sleep paralysis because I've personally never experienced it, and unless it just comes out of the blue, I think it was something real. The strangest part was I could feel something on me, like a person pushing and trying to hold me down. I feel like he might have actually had sleep paralysis because that's a lot of people describes their like sleep paralysis demon as a figure that might be like holding them down against the bed mattress. And if he's never experienced it before, then there's no way that he would know what having sleep paralysis is like if that was his first time having it. I don't know for sure. Sleep paralysis demons are pretty terrifying. I've had one time where I've had that happen once or twice. Terrifying. Not fun. Not a fun time. Next story is called Honefells. I have quite a few weird-ass anecdotes from Honefells. I was there 2014 to 2015, and when I first got there, the barracks were being renovated. On battalion staff duty, the NCOIC checked those barracks because of flickering lights we could see from the battalion headquarters entrance. So the barracks that were being renovated and nobody was living in had flashing lights in them. So either somebody was inside of there messing around with the lights or something else was happening. Perhaps something more sinister. Because it was being renovated, no one was supposed to be there. Long story short, an NCO kept chasing after lights flickering on and off. Whenever he was chasing was stupid fast. Like first floor to third floor to the other stairwell, back to the first floor, etc. It was nothing super concrete, but weird nonetheless. Two homies from my platoon knock on my door at night, freaking out about their room and wanting to crash on my couch. Something grabbed their trash can, pulled it all out, and spread it all around their room. Bro. No thank you. Trash throwing now? That's just rude. Is this just Goosebumps with PT? Basically. I remember whenever I got to the first aircrew candidate school barracks in Pensacola, and there was this myth that there was a dead aircrew candidate roaming the barracks at night. Weird. Some kids on duty even said they saw him. Most likely a myth, though. Who knows? Anyway, let's keep going with this story here. When they woke up, all they woke up to was trash everywhere. It could have been an animal or something, except they were on the third floor, which would have been a weird place. We had one private, in parentheses, crazy dude should never have been allowed in the army, in end parentheses, start spray painting pentagrams on the inside of his barracks room window. His roommate saw this and saw the dude cutting himself. I ran downstairs to let CQ know. The dude was bonkers. The rumor was that the chaplain was asked to perform an exorcism on him. He got chaptered, I think. Unfortunately, he never got the help he needed and took his own life. That's unfortunate. The crazy finds were in the box. Box witch stories aside, guys swear they found a cave and wrought iron bars set blocking the entrance. They were able to get someone in, and allegedly Old Boy found human bones along with a skull that he kept hidden away once he took it. Pretty crazy. We all thought it was funny. I came across some weird sort of, quote, prayer circle, end quote, in the land nav area. It could have been a camp way back when, but the dismembered toy dolls left there were weird. I remember getting a chill when stumbling upon it and going quickly. The boars in the land nav area chase guys all the time. We all hated night land nav. Red lens headlamps and empty M4s aren't a great defense against a spooked boar. I mean, you always take your rifle with you when you're doing land nav, but you never get any security rounds. Tons of guys willingly failed land nav after getting chased by the pigs. I swear all of Honefells was out to out us. The boars there were giant, too. A bunch of guys would always have sleep paralysis. Shadow people were sitting on their chests staring at them. Figures looking around corners at guys while they slept. Someone's door just fell clean off their closet as if someone removed the hinges and unlocked the door. We always had those German maintenance guys fixing something. I guess the Nazi ghosts didn't like us. In Hoenfells we have the box witch, but that has the same name everywhere. Legend had it that during World War II there were towns in the training area with Germans living in them. As the Allies moved deeper and deeper into Germany, they were bombing villages and towns, including ones in what is now the box. One of the towns had a little girl. She got caught outside and never made it to a shelter before the firebombs got her. Decades later, Hoenfells got set up as a NATO training base. Allegedly, a Polish soldier noted that he saw a little girl dressed in black during a training exercise. He didn't think anything of it and stuck around, trying to talk to her. He disappeared, and a massive search went underway for him. They found him on the other side of the box, dead and bloated within a day. A distance he couldn't have possibly moved on his foot power. So as the warning goes, if you see the girl in white, you have to help her with whatever request she gives you. If you see her in black, stay far away and get out of there. At least that's what we've been told. Bro, that is creepy. I remember a National Guardsman that got augmented to us calling up that he saw a little girl in the box, but it was some severe scuttlebutt, and we are pretty sure someone put him up to it. Still, guys swear they have seen her before. Yeah, bro, that's, I'm good on that. If I see a ghost while I'm out doing training and it's like nighttime, nope, staying away, staying far away. The Hoenfells boars move like infantry squads. Jesus. Even the ghosts are wearing UN helmets. The next story, and probably the last one we're going to do, is called Camp Humphreys. So I was stationed at Camp Humphreys in Korea for a year. If you're unfamiliar, it's on a relatively rural part of the West Coast, but it's Korea, so you're never really far from civilization. The base itself is divided by an airfield, regular army on the south side, general/joint staffs, and spooks on the north, with only the latter living there. I was shamming getting ready to out the process. So I was working out late and sleeping in, which is why I went out for a run one night at 0100 in the morning. I had hit my turnaround and was headed back and saw a bright light off to my right over the central residential part of the base. Hung out for a few seconds, then started falling at an angle towards the horizon. I didn't hear a sound when it appeared, which tripped me up at the time, but looking at a map now, the Yellow Sea is about 50 miles away, so if it impacted there, it would have crossed the horizon, but I digress. I booked it back to my room. I didn't hear anything from the Patriot battery along the way, so they didn't pick up whatever it was. I grabbed my badge, went into the office at 02, still in my workout clothes, and checked the kinds of official sites where that sort of thing would get posted, because I assumed someone got shot down and Fight Tonight would be real after 70 years. Nothing. I called it a night, checked back again the next day, and still nothing. Not sure how to end this, but it was September 21st last year if anyone else wrote it down and thought they were crazy too. I don't know. He probably meant last year as in last year whenever he gave the story to my friend Nick here. So spooky stuff. There's going to be some more stories coming up. The next story that we'll pick up with is called Stahlheim in Germany. So until then, we'll put this on hold.